It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life. From the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators. The famous and not so famous. The controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here is Douglas Coleman.
Howdy, howdy, ho. Hey, hee, 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 ha. Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. It's me, Douglas Coleman. Thank you for joining us. Nice to have you with us here, as always. We've got two guests up for today. First one up is Matthew Parris. Matthew is from Houston, Texas, and he is a writer. He has written a couple of scripts. He's got 2 movies out, short films. The first one is called Crisis, and the second one is called The Last Catch. 2 very different types of film, and he'll tell us all about those during the interview. Matthew is also an active contributor to the Sports Column, which is an online sports media analysis and news site, and he's contributed over 60 articles and has contributed film articles for the Austin Film Meet in Austin, Texas. Matthew is followed by Tim Miller. Tim Miller is a devoted husband to Michelle Miller for over 25 years, and they have a reality TV show now called Hypnotizing America. You can check him out on his website at hypnotizingamerica.com. He will be with us to talk about the show and also how football can relate to a happier marriage. So, with that, we will be right back with Matthew Parris. Okay, please welcome my guest, Matthew Parris. Hi, Matthew. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. Let's see. You are a writer. You're writing for film. Is that correct?
That is correct. Among other things, I also do I'm a contributor to the Sports Column, and I've written some articles on film marketing and directing and producing, and for Austin Film Meet in Austin, Texas.
Okay, great. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background? And I've actually got a couple questions for you on that screenwriting marketing, because I've been trying to write something myself, and I have no idea how to start shopping it around. So maybe you can give me some pointers. But tell us a little about yourself first, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. I had a very normal childhood, birthday parties, sports, the works. Loved growing up in Houston. Go Astros. They just won the World Series. Have to throw that in there. And writing, it's funny because writing to me, I never really thought about doing it when I was a kid. I was interested in other things. I was an active moviegoer. I went to see movies all the time with friends and family and would talk about them, quite often. The first time, but I always knew I was good at writing. I always did well in English class and whatnot. And the first time I was ever really told that I might have a talent in it, or I was really good at it, was my sophomore year in high school. I was in a classroom. I was in English class, and I was sitting at a desk, and I was talking to a buddy of mine who was sitting right next to me. And the teacher came up and put I think I'd written some sort of paper, and she put it down, and it marked with an A. And she leaned over, and I was like, what's up? And she said, look, Matthew, I think you're doing really well in this class, and I think this might be a talent, and you should really explore this. And I was very nice about it. It kind of went through one ear and out the other, but I was nice about it, because at the time, me being 15, 16-year-old kid, all I was thinking about was sports and girls.
Right.
So it was very nice, but I kind of forgot about it. And then I went to college. I went to Texas Tech University, and I majored in theater and English literature. And I thought, you know what, I've always been good at this. I'm going to give this a shot. So I did really well on my English classes in college, graduated with a degree. went to Los Angeles for about 2 years, ended up getting a job at Universal Studios for a show crew for Waterworld.
Oh.
And yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
What did that job entail, actually?
Basically what they did was they have Universal Theme Park. They have a show called Waterworld, which is based on the Kevin Costner movie. So basically what I got hired to do is just kind of be the show crew. So basically what I did was I would set up everything during the show. I would pretty much basically just load pyrotechnics, which was a lot of fun to do, messing with little firecrackers and kind of little bombs to kind of blow some stuff up to get the effect of the show. And basically I would just set everything up. And then once the show was over, we had a 20-minute leeway where the crowd leaves and then the next crowd comes in. So the show would run, I think, 4 or 5 times a day. So we really had to hurry. And I think there was about 12 of us on the crew. And it was no downtime. It was just go, 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 go. But it was fun. It was a great learning experience, and really just keep working, no downtime. And it really built my work ethic.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely a job for a younger man, though. I don't know that somebody my age would want to do something like that, but it would be fun to watch.
Right. Yeah, it was cool. We had an effect where the plane, we had to set the little pyrotechnics underneath this little model kind of plane. And there's a part in the show where all the actors and all the stunt people have to, the plane is coming down. We have to give the effect that the plane is coming down and crashing into this pool. So basically, during that part of the show, everybody kind of, all the actors and the stunt people dive into the pool, and the plane comes down, and there's sparks flying everywhere and whatnot. So, and that was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work to reset the plane, and that was kind of difficult. We basically had one guy on the rope, and then another guy on the other side, kind of directing of where to put the actual plane, and then we had this crane where it picked up from both of the wings. And we just lift it back up when nobody was in there and just kind of bring it back over. But it was interesting.
I haven't been to Universal in LA since I was a kid. So I'm going by what I remember about it. But I remember you used to ride through on a tram. Do they still do that?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, they had that when I was there. Again, it's been about 9 years since I've lived in Los Angeles, but and I moved there right after I graduated from Texas Tech. But yeah, they did have that tram. I do remember that. They did have the tram, and I believe they still have it.
Okay, so then you moved back to Houston after being in LA and working at Universal. How long have you been back?
For about 9 years now. I'm a coach. I coach for Austin Sports Academy in baseball, football, and soccer. And I also site coordinate and do the open plays for them. And I've been coaching for about 8 years, and I was also with I-9 Sports Association as a marketing rep in Central Texas and coached pretty much everything, baseball, football, did the summer programs, ran the summer programs. Yeah, here we are now. And I also had written 3 short films for Looknow Productions in Austin, Texas. One was called Crisis, which is it's more of a kind of a thriller. It's about a guy who's just kind of down on his luck, and he calls into his favorite radio station for help, and because he's thinking about committing suicide. And the film did real well. It's about 12 minutes long. The film did real well, and we won a bunch of accolades for it. We all won, I think, the Rising Star. Yeah, it was the Rising Star Award at the Canada International Film Festival. And that one film, and I think I also got some for my screenplay. And we also won an award at WorldFest Houston. We won the Platinum Award at WorldFest Houston. And we ended up selling the movie for television distribution on Directv and AT&T U-Verse. And it's playing in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and the United States.
How do you do that? How do you get something sold for distribution? What's the process?
Well, that's I get asked that question a lot, actually. How did you do it? When we shot the movie, a lot of people came to me and said, do you have distribution for it? And I would tell them, you know, honestly, I said no. And then they would kind of look at me and be like, well, you know, how are you going to do that? Because it's very hard to sell a movie for distribution. But I had during this time in Austin, I had done a lot of marketing and coaching and for the league and whatnot. So I had an idea of where to go. You just kind of bring that competitive attitude over to movies. So I kind of had that idea of where to go. And once we shot it, we cut it, we did post-production, we did the sound mixing, we did everything. And we had a small little premiere for it in East Austin at, I think, a place called Juju's Photo Gallery, which was pretty cool. It's kind of like a little museum and photo gallery, and we had people come in and we advertised for it, and it was a lot of fun to do. Basically what happened was I told myself my process of marketing and how I was going to do it was I didn't want to watch the movie with a crowd. Because if you watch a movie with the cast and crew and a crowd, people tend to kind of pass judgment on it very quickly. You know, why'd you do this or why'd you do that? Why'd you make this decision and why did you not make this decision? So basically I told myself, I said, okay, I want to watch the movie alone, which is what I did. And I said, okay, here's what I think we have. And I would research film festivals. So I researched film festivals. I said, okay, it will work here. It might work there. It might work here. So basically what I did was I went to all the smaller film festivals like World Fest Houston, which is getting pretty big now. I know a lot of the producers wanted me to go to big places like Cannes or Sundance or South by Southwest. And I would tell them honestly, I said, look, guys, I think that's the wrong way to go. You know, we don't need a grand slam or a home run right out of the gate. We just need a few base hits here. So I sent it to World Fest Houston. We got the Platinum Award. I sent it to Canada. We got the Rising Star Award. And as soon as we got about 2 awards, I kind of thought, okay, now we're in the driver's seat. I think a lot of artists and directors and producers tend to kind of, you know, it's all about the now. And once they finish a movie, they really, I think they go straight for the distribution companies to try to buy it and whatnot. And I think that's honestly the wrong way to go. So I did the film festival thing and we had some success there. And I thought, you know what, now I feel like we've done well. We have 2 awards. We can promote that. We can advertise that. Let's go to distribution companies. So I sent the film to a place in Berlin, actually. And they got back to me, I think 2 days later, and they said, thank you very much, but it's not for us. We like it, but it's not going to fit with our film library right now, but thank you. And I said, okay, that's cool. So after that, I sent it to Shorts International in Los Angeles just to see what they said. A month went by and it was absolutely nothing. So I thought, okay, that's kind of a lost cause. They're not going to contact me. And I spoke a little bit too soon. I think like a week later, Jenny Hayden, who's one of the acquisitions and distribution people over there, emailed me back and said, I saw your movie last night. I think it's great. We would like to buy it. And I thought, wow. Of course, that started a whole process of like a 5-month process of getting everything to her, and you know, like the film clips and the I mean, they sent us this whole thing, like it was like very math related oriented, like, okay, from this clip to this clip, how many minutes is that? From this clip to this clip, how many minutes is that? I mean, it was very technically detailed. So, and we had to, you know, they were like, you secured in the contract, they were like, you secured the music, everybody's okay with that and whatnot. And we were like, yeah. So we sent it off to them. We signed the contracts, my producer and myself, and we sent it off to them. And we got paid a flat rate. It was no residuals or royalties or anything like that. It was just very much a flat rate. And yeah, we sent it off to them, and she said, okay, we got everything. So we're going to, you know, premiere it on this date. And it was great. They premiered it on, I don't remember the date, but it was, I do remember looking it up on the schedule, and they had like they sent it off to the ratings board, and they had an MPA rating of, it was pretty much rated R, but for television, short films, I think it was something else like 18 plus, which is basically rated R. And, yeah, it was cool. They premiered it actually like midnight, and then there was another showing like at 3 a.m. I was like, everybody's going to be asleep.
what was in the content that made it rated R? Was it language?
There was, it's a very kind of dark movie. I mean, it's about a guy who feels down on his luck. He can't get a job. He's in his early 30s. He lives with his parents. And basically, he gets hassled by his friends a lot, and he feels really depressed, and he just needs somebody to talk to. And in the original draft, it was a very talky movie. Like, he calls into his favorite radio station, and the radio personality actually tries to help him. And it started off like that. The first draft was very much a drama, and then it kind of went to the thriller aspect. We made the main character, Michael, kind of a little bit out there, and he was obsessed with the radio station person. Yeah, so it kind of went from there, and then at the end they meet up, and it ends kind of badly. But I think the biggest thing to make it rated R was the ending was kind of shocking. As a matter of fact, at the premiere, I had a lot of people come up to me and be like, "Dude, that ending." They were like, I was like, I know. I was like, that wasn't in the original draft. In the original draft, it was very much, you didn't know whether or not he did it. And I wanted the audience to kind of I wanted to make them think, okay, well, did he do it or did he not do it? Whereas in the final version of the movie, in the other drafts, the producer was very much like, no, we got to have a solid ending. He's like, let's go for the shock ending.
Okay, so that's a good teaser.
So that's what really made it rated R.
Now everybody's going to want to go see it because you didn't tell us what it was.
Exactly. I have to be careful, But you gotta go to Shorts International, Shorts HD Network, and watch it.
All right. Let's talk about your other one, which you sent me the trailer for, and it looked very interesting, called The Last Catch. Tell us a little about that one.
The Last Catch is, I had that in my mind for about a little over a year before I decided to put it down on paper, and I pitched it to the Looknow Productions people. Actually, the day we found out we sold Crisis, I was over at the producer's house, and we were sitting out on the back porch, and we were talking. And I said, well, look, I have another one that I've been thinking about. You might want to, you mind if I pitch it to you? And he's like, yeah, go ahead, tell me about it. So I told him about it, and he was like, do you have a script? And I was like, no. I said, give me about 2 to 3 weeks, and I should have one. And he said, okay. So after about 2 to 3 weeks, I had a first draft. It was, pretty rough, but it was the basic idea of what to do and the basic concept of it. And, of course, me playing sports all my life, I really wanted to do kind of a dramatic sports movie, not a comedy, but a drama. And it was heavily inspired by Field of Dreams, the 1989 movie with Kevin Costner,
right, okay.
Which is actually one of my favorite sports movies. So I really kind of based it off that concept a little bit. And basically, it's about a college baseball player who, when he was younger, he was pushed by his father really hard to play baseball. And him and his father, as he got older, him and his father never really got along. And he had a girlfriend, his high school sweetheart, and the dad really didn't like her, and the mom, kind of put up with it a little bit. What happened was he went off to college, and he said, I'm not coming back to my small Texas town ever again. But later on, as he was succeeding in college, he found out, and in college baseball, he found out that his dad has cancer. This is not in the movie, but this is kind of like the basic background of what I'm giving. But the mother kind of calls him up and says, hey, your dad has cancer. He wants to talk to you. You gotta come home. And he's in really bad shape. So the movie starts out with him on the road in the car driving back to a small Texas town with his girlfriend. And the whole thing is shot in the house. It was a great house. We shot in San Marcos, Texas. So he comes back and he, talks with his dad. And there's one request that he has, which is in the title, The Last Catch.
Okay.
And they just talk it out. And they basically, and he understands, the dad pretty much tells him in the movie, I don't want to give too much away, but the dad pretty much tells him in the movie, this is why I pushed you so hard. This is why I did this. This is why I was tough on you. And he was like, I hope you can understand that. It was just to prepare you for what's to come because life is hard. It's very much it's very different than Crisis. It's very much, it's my tearjerker movie.
Okay, now, how long are these films? Because you've got it down here as they're both short films. What constitutes a short film?
A short film is 40 minutes or less.
Okay.
But Crisis was a little longer. It was about 19 to 21 minutes long. And The Last Catch was about 11, 12 minutes long.
11 or 12 minutes. Wow. I mean, you really got to be slick with your editing. I mean, to get that, to be able to tell the story and not have it be, do you know what I mean? The continuity of it, I guess.
Well, you're absolutely right, Douglas. It was very tight. Post-production, it's funny because in post-production, we had a first cut of the movie. And I was sitting with my editor, whose name is Gray Ellis, great editor. He was also the director of Crisis, great filmmaker, and he's gone off and done a few other things. We were sitting down, and he was like, "All right, what do you want to do here, and what do you want to do there?" And we had to make some really, really tough decisions because we had the producers were kind of telling us, where's the first cut? We need to see it. So we had a very kind of rough cut of just pieces put together, basically. And we send it to them, and I tell you that call was pretty brutal because we got a call back saying that the producers don't like it. They don't like the first cut of the movie. And I was like, all right. Right away, they were like, we need to do a reshoot. So we went back to the house and we did 1 day of reshoots. It was all day, and we basically got a lot more of the catch. Because during the process, we only had a 2-day shoot on the Last Catch, whereas I wanted a 4-day shoot, and they were like, "No, we gotta do a 2-day shoot." And I was like, so that became a whole thing. We actually ended up doing 2 days. We ended up doing, I think, 3 days worth of shooting the actual movie plus 1 day of reshoots. So we went back. We shot a lot of B-roll footage. We shot a lot of stuff with the catch. We shot a few more stuff with the mom and the dad in the kitchen, and that was it. Basically, once the movie was done, we had talked about having a premiere for it, but we had a focus group screen over here at AMC Barton Creek in Austin, where 10 or 11 people came into the screen, and I was there, and I was sitting in the back. And we show them the film, and then basically they fill out forms saying what they like and what they didn't like. So I was looking at all the forms. I think we had the production manager from the movie there, and I was talking to him about it. And basically, the scores weren't through the roof. They were okay with it. The biggest score we got was they liked the story a lot. But it was a lot of technical aspects to the movie, where they were like, we don't think this shot works well here, or this and that and the other. And I remember calling the producers about it and saying, well, they don't like this and that and the other. And so we basically said, okay, well, we're not going to have a premiere, and which was kind of disappointing for me. But I thought, all right, going into the marketing aspect of it, we had made a poster. We had done some stock cards of everything advertising the Last Catch movie. The poster was very cool. The poster looked like it was designed by Gray Ellis again. And it was basically a glove and a ball sitting in a field of grass overlooking the trees and the forest and the sky out there. And it said The Last Catch up top. I actually get a lot of compliments on the poster, and I'm like, well, that's not me, guys. That's Gray Ellis. He designed it. I basically took the same mentality of marketing it like I market Crisis. I said, okay, I'm going to send it off to the film festivals I know well, and we'll see what happens. Now, I sent it off to a few other film festivals, and they said, no, we don't want to do it. And I'm like, okay. Then I sent it off to Canada again, and we actually won the Royal Reel Award for Best Foreign Film. I sent it off back to World Fest Houston, and we won the Silver Remy Award. And I sent it off to LA, a small little film festival in LA, and we actually got a screening there, which I did not go to because I was too busy in Austin. I was working my other job. I was coaching. I heard it was a sold-out screen. I think it was right next to Paramount Pictures. It was like right across the street. I think it's something Studios. I forgot what it's called. But it might be like Melrose Studios because it was right off Melrose. But I heard the screening went really, really well. And after that, we, the buzz was kicking in. We won Best Short Film at the Digital Nation Awards. So it's funny, Douglas, it went from one extreme to the other. It went from people telling me that they don't like it to people telling me that they love it.
Well, I think that's great. It's also not that unusual because, especially in the arts, music business especially, it's subjective. You know, what's a great film to one person is a lousy film to somebody else. It just kind of depends on your taste, really. That's why this business is so difficult. When I say this business, I mean the entertainment business in general. You know, it's not like accounting where 1 + 1 = 2 no matter what. This is, you know, you put your heart and soul into it, and then somebody who just doesn't happen to like baseball, perhaps, watches the film and says, "Nah, I don't like it." You know, and you're sort of stuck with that.
Exactly.
One thing you did bring up that I've heard before, but I don't know exactly what it is. What does B-roll footage mean?
B-roll footage is basically it's basically going out and shooting just like, let's say you're doing a movie that's set out in the jungle or out in the forest. It's basically just shooting the landscape, the sky, the trees, maybe close up on a few branches, maybe a close up on like a squirrel going by a log or something. It doesn't involve the actors too much. It's just basically, it's used for basically, if you go into once you finish the movie, you go into post-production, you're editing it and everything. A scene may not cut well, a scene may not cut well together if you just have the actors moving from one place to the other. In order to divide the time, you have to maybe cut like outside for a second and let the audience know. Yeah, they let the audience know that, okay, time has passed a little bit, and now the actors are over here in this location.
It's a transition, right?
It is. It's a transition.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've heard that. I've heard other filmmakers use that, and they just threw it in, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So now I learned something today. The last thing I wanted to bring up, and then we got to kind of wrap this up, is what I asked you at the very beginning of the interview. If somebody writes an idea of, this is the film I want to make, okay? And here's the basic idea, here's the story, here's the characters, here's what happens to them. How do you get it from there to a full-blown script that you could shop around?
It's very different. I mean, independent producers, if you know them well and it's all about contacts, sometimes they'll be like, and they think of you as a friend, sometimes they'll be like, do you have a script? Just send it to me. However, that's usually not how it's done originally. Basically, what you have to do is, and it's different for television and movies, whereas in movies, you basically write a treatment of what all this is going to be. Here are the characters. Here's the time period. Here's the location. Here's the concept of it. Here's the story. Here's what's going on.
A treatment, right?
And if they like it, sometimes they'll be like, okay, I like this enough. I see where you're going with this. Can you send me a script? And that's basically, you know, you write out the first draft and you send it to them, and hopefully it goes from there. And then there are other times where you might send them something and be like, you know, I'm sorry, but this is not for us, or they won't even contact you. That's usually how it's done. For television, it's all about the idea. Basically, you write like a treatment for television. Say they're going to ask you stuff like, and it's different with all their stuff, but some producers will ask you stuff like, okay, what kind of audience do you see this? Are you going for? What's the age limit for the show? What's the marketing value for the show? What do you think this is going to be rated? What do you think the budget is going to be like on the show? So they ask you a lot more stuff with that. And you give them the concept and the characters and the character breakdowns, and then you send it off to them. And again, hopefully they like it. Some of them may ask for a pilot script or whatnot, or some of them might just be like, no, we're not interested in this. So everywhere is different. And then you'll have like the big companies, like big studios or big networks like CBS or Fox, see anything unless it comes from an agent. So yeah, so you would need an agent, and in order to get an agent, you have to have done something that they have liked. So it's a very tough business. There's a lot of different ways to go about it, but it's very, very difficult.
Okay, well, I guess that answers that question. I just had an idea. I had a guest on, and we both kind of came up with this idea sort of by accident that, wow, that would make a great film, So I wrote out like a page of just the basic, synopsis, I guess you'd call it. And
Right.
I just didn't know what to do with it now. I didn't know where to take it to the next step, or if I'm going to have to sit down and write out a whole script. Every character, every word, every line.
Right.
Because in my mind, I think of it as a full-length feature, that it would take an hour and 45 minutes to tell the story.
Do you have any friends in the film business, like producers, any contacts at all, Douglas?
Yeah, I mean, just people that I've met through the show, and friends of theirs and this kind of stuff. But I just don't know what. In other words, I don't know what to send them. Do I just send them this one page, or do I have to write out a whole script and send it to them? That's really my question.
Well, they say a lot of producers will, if you don't know them well and they see a script, they'll read maybe the first, you have to hook them in the first 10 pages of the script. And if you don't hook them, then they'll most likely put it away and not finish the thing.
Yeah, okay.
So my advice would be, I would probably write out the script and just kind of send it off to your friends and your contacts and just see what they say. The good news is, though, I mean, if nobody likes it or they do like it, there's always another producer out there, Well, and so much of this is indie now. So, like with music, that you don't necessarily have to have anyone buy it. If you can get the money up to make the film, you could do it yourself. Absolutely. I agree. And that's another way to go. You can self-fund. I know a lot of filmmakers, independent filmmakers around the South and the Texas area. They do a lot of Indiegogo and crowdfunding type stuff, like Kickstarter, to try to get their movie made. The only problem with that is if you're doing a full-length feature, and let's say you go to Kickstarter and you introduce what the concept is and whatnot, and people who donate, they usually want something back. So a lot of people will put, a signed copy of the script by the screenwriter and director. Or, if you donate more, you could come on the set, you could be an extra and whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. But the problem with Kickstarter is if you don't hit your funding, I think you don't get anything by a certain deadline, by that certain day. Whereas I think Indiegogo, you get the funding that you get. I could be wrong about that, but I think I'm correct. So you got to sort of be careful about that. I mean, how we fund The Last Catch and Crisis, it was through the producers kind of handled that. I really didn't have anything to do with that. I mean, the only thing I threw my money in on was for Crisis and Last Catch was to help out with marketing, and that kind of worked. But there are many ways to make a movie. I mean, you can find if you have like a rich friend or a rich uncle who, say, I'm going to put up the money for this.
So The Last Catch is out now?
It is. Yeah. It's from, again, Shorts International. They bought it. Jenny bought it again, and she only released it in the United States. She didn't think it would play well in Europe, Middle East, or Africa, or the other territories. I remember she told me over email, she was like, we think this plays better here in the United States because baseball is America's favorite pastime, and we just think it plays better here. And I said, absolutely. I said, we got to do what we got to do.
Well, that makes sense. So where can people go to see it?
It's on Directv and AT&T U-Verse, and it's on the Shorts HD network, like Crisis is. Crisis is also on the Shorts HD network.
Okay. Is that one of those subscription sites? I don't know. I'm not familiar with it.
I believe they just sold it to television, although we did have other territories like mobile phones and whatnot. I haven't heard anything about having the film being put on that. I know if you have cable, basic cable, and you have the Shorts HD network and just show short films, just look it up online what time it's going to play, and you go from there. You just watch on television.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So it's not like Netflix then. It's not the same thing.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, Matthew, thanks so much for coming on. This was very informative. I learned a couple things. Going to bat around the idea of what I'm going to do with this with this story that's been stuck in my head for a year now. Thank you so much for coming on. Best of luck with your films. Do you have a website that people can look you up? you want to mention?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You could look me up on Facebook. I have a IMDb page. Just go to Google and type in Matthew Parris. Matthew with 2 T's and Parris, P-A-R-A-S. I also have, I've written over 70 articles now for the sports column. So if anybody wants to go and read the articles I've written about sports, you can just go to Google and type in the sports column, Matthew Parris. Or you could just, if you want to read my film articles on Austin Film Meet, just go to Google again and type in Matthew Parris, Texas, or Matthew Parris, Austin Film Meet, and it should come up right at the top.
Well, Matthew, thank you again. It was a pleasure talking to you. Best of luck with your films.
Absolutely, Douglas. Thank you. Thank you again. This was a lot of fun, and good luck with your script. I hope to see it one day.
You never know.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Tired of living in a culture of lies, fake news, and alternative facts? The Pro-Truth Pledge reverses the tide of lies by calling on politicians, and everyone else, to commit to truth-oriented behaviors. The pledge asks signees to commit to 12 behaviors that research in behavioral science shows lead to truthfulness, such as clarifying one's opinions and the facts, citing one's sources, and celebrating people who update their beliefs toward the truth. Private citizens who sign the pledge get the benefit of contributing to a more truth-oriented society. Public figures get more substantive rewards for signing the pledge in the form of positive media and public recognition. The pledge crowdsources the truth by asking volunteers to evaluate the statements of public figures who sign the pledge. Take the pledge, demand that your elected representatives do so, and encourage your friends to take it at protruthpledge.org.
Hi there, this is Stuart Epps from the UK, record producer, engineer. You might have heard of me. I've worked with artists from Elton John to Led Zeppelin to Bad Company, Twisted Sister, Robbie Williams, Oasis, many, many great bands and artists in the past and the present and hopefully in the future. But you can work with me as well. You know, all you got to do is get in touch with me on eppsmusicproductions.com. That's eppsproductionsmusic.com. And I can help you with your productions and with your recordings. A lot of people do home recordings now, which you can only take so far. Maybe they need a bit of professional help. So get in touch with me and we can sort it out. And thanks for Douglas Coleman for giving me this spot. Thanks a lot. Cheers, bye.
After the loss of my dog Mandy, I had difficulty sleeping. She had been my best friend for years. She slept on the end of my bed, and I found her snoring soothing. It was difficult for me, as I also found little support for my grief. Not being able to sleep was the worst. I decided to create an audiobook to help people like me. Listen to my voice as you drift into a peaceful sleep, taking a journey using your dog's memories, accompanied by rain falling, birds singing, and a waterfall. To get your download, go to Amazon and search Relax by Jane Yates. Thanks to Douglas Coleman for this spot.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Okay, please welcome my guest, Tim Miller. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Hey, Douglas. I'm so excited to be on your show today.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. Your bio is really intriguing. You've done a lot of things, and now you're doing other things. You were, let's see, you were first a former NCAA Division I head football coach. That's pretty impressive. What school were you at?
Yes. I was at LaSalle University in Philadelphia. Small Division I school.
And now you're doing real estate, and you're a certified hypnotist, and you've got a reality TV show. Let's see.
Yeah, it's been very interesting.
I don't know where to start with all of this, but the one thing
Douglas.
Yeah, the one thing I thought was really interesting was your teaser points about you're comparing marriage to football. We've had several marriage counselor people, psychologists, things like that on the show, and everybody's got their own take on what makes a successful marriage. But a lot of people, they do kind of repeat certain points, like it has to be a 50-50, it takes work, once the honeymoon's over, all these different kinds of things. But I've never seen anybody use football as the analogy for a successful marriage or points to improve your relationship. So I thought I would just sort of dive right in with that, and then we can talk about your TV show in a little bit.
I think if I were to pick one thing from my life that I've really taken a lot from, it's my experiences within the game of football. And, when you ask someone what they like about football, they might talk about the tackling and the blocking, but really when it comes to the heart of it, most people that are attracted to football through their playing experiences, what they really get out of it are the relationships. And because of the nature of the game, it's a very rough game. And if you look at the teams that are most successful, it's generally the teams that overcome adversity. And, in the course of a season, of course of the football season, there are so many ups and downs. And it's really how a team comes together, how they work together, how they overcome each other's weaknesses. We often look at all of our strengths, but really, the success of a football team are, there's going to be weaknesses on the field. And how do you come together as a group and overcome those weaknesses? And I think you can kind of understand where I'm going with this in marriage. It's funny because I use the analogy that, I hear, you hear people say, well, it's a 50-50, and I believe it's 100%. You need to have, in order for a marriage to be successful, there needs to be 100% effort. The problem in our society today is we always feel like, okay, well, I'm going to give 50% and you're going to give 50%. Well, you know what? If your partner is only able to give 2%, then you got to step up. No different than in the game of football. If you have a person and they're just, not that talented in certain things. Well, I know me as a teammate, I need to step up in my areas of the game to equal that 100%. So if my wife is going through a tough time, or if there's some things that I already know that, are not her strong points, I need to pick up my part of it. But I'll guarantee you this is, if you do that and you show that loyalty and you show that hard work throughout the years in a marriage, and let's just say you're the one giving the plus 50%, I find that individual, when it's needed, will step up. And that's what I absolutely love about football. And that's where I see a lot of, that's from a broad perspective where I see the analogy between marriage and football.
Okay. Now, you work with your wife, correct, on the TV show?
Yeah. Can I give you just a quick how we got here to where we are? I'll try to be quick with it. But, I was a football coach for 20-some years, got out in 2008, went into real estate, which tells you how smart of a guy I am, right when the whole market tanked. But it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me because the whole industry changed. And within the first 5 years, we had a lot of success. I built a team that was often in the top 20 RE/MAX teams in PA, Delaware, out of thousands. But I missed being in front of people. For 20-some years as a football coach every day, I was in front of 100+ people. So I had seen a hypnotist, and I thought what I would do is get my certifications, and I would do one show a year for my real estate clients. So I did my first show, around 2.5 years ago in my basement for like 50 people, and they were amazed. And I also started it because I love to make my wife laugh. And my wife thought this was the funniest thing. So then we started to get requests to go to small restaurants and do shows. So I would have her come, and we put a lot of music, and she would work the computer and the whole deal. Well, fast forward, after the first 6 months, we started to get requests not only from all over the country, but also internationally. And so today I've performed for thousands of people. We're actually doing a show this spring at the Lea Core Center, which is a 10,000-seat arena. We performed in Los Cabos, Mexico. We performed for a first lady. We performed, you name it. We've done it. And we're getting a lot of. We performed a couple shows in Hollywood. We're from Philadelphia. So it's been a really interesting ride. And during the course of this, my wife and I have been married for almost 30 years. We're an interracial couple, which back when we got married, that was not nearly as common as it is now. Today, 1 out of 6 marriages are interracial marriages. When we got the late 80s, early 90s, it was totally not that way. So we've had to overcome some things in our relationship, and it's just a cool story now that we're getting. We love to make each other laugh. We're out in front of sometimes thousands of people, government shows, whatever it might be, and we have this banter on stage that most couples, whether they're married or just dating, can relate to. So it's really added a lot to our show. And then we had some different people in the entertainment industry say, this is a reality show. So I didn't think much of it. And, now we have our own reality show. We've just aired the 4th episode. It's on a regional network in PA, Jersey, Delaware. But we think we have a decent shot. So we're not trying to think too far ahead, but we're having a lot of fun with it.
Okay.
So that kind of tells you where the heck how all these things kind of came together.
Okay, good. That gives us a little continuity. The reason I brought that up, that you work with your wife, is I want to go back to the marriage thing again, and then we'll flip back to your show and talk a little more detail about that.
Sure.
But the reason I ask that is because I've talked with people on this show who have a business with their wife, and essentially they're together 24/7. Okay? They work together, they sleep together, they live together. Okay. Now, personally for me, I couldn't do that. Okay? I need the separation. I need my time. All right? I don't think that working with one's spouse could always work out for everybody. Do you agree with that?
No, I do agree with that. And I think one area that we kind of fall short when we try to analyze relationships is we're dealing with people, right? We're definitely not a perfect, science. And what works in my relationship, it doesn't mean it's going to work in your relationship, Right. And I love being with my wife. One of the reasons I left coaching is because I worked over 100 hours a week. God bless her, she would, move to the middle of nowhere for me. But I absolutely love being with my wife. And luckily for me, most of the time, I think she enjoys being with me. And it doesn't mean that someone that doesn't want to work with their wife doesn't want to be around each other. And I totally understand what you're saying. But in our world, at least, it's such a great opportunity that, and look what we're doing. I mean, we're putting on, although I do help people stop smoking, the majority of what I do within the hypnosis is entertainment. So, I'm going to exciting places sometimes and getting rewarded by people's laughter and being on stage. And I'm getting to share that with my wife. And that's the biggest thing. And I tell people all the time, my goal when I step on that stage is to make her laugh, because she's at every single show. If I make her laugh, then I know I've had a successful show. So I do agree with you. I don't think it's for everybody. I really don't. And I think that's the key, one of the main keys to a great relationship is communication, right? I mean, if you can communicate, you're not going to always agree on things, but if you have a good way of communication with your partner, then I think it solves so many problems. And we've been fortunate, through a lot of trial and error over a lot of years, to be able to communicate. And there's certain things that I know I will not change her mind on, and there's certain things she knows she won't change my mind on. But yet we find it's a give and take, you know, and
Right.
that's, to me, the difference between the people that make it and don't. It's not whether you work with your partner, or it's not whether, you know, it's a matter of, do you communicate well, and do you guys have enough respect for each other and care for each other that sometimes you try to outdo each other in kindness.
I've noticed with entertainers, if you have two, you know, like the one that comes to mind is Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. You know, the egos can really get in the way of a marriage in that situation as well.
Yeah, well, we're not quite yet on their level, but I really do appreciate that. And you know, my wife, she always wants to be backstage, always. And sometimes, you know, we're just doing in a conference room for, you know, a company or whatever, and sometimes we're on bigger stages. She always wanted to be backstage, and I told her, I said, listen, my wife has an incredible laugh, so she doesn't see herself as a performer, although she really is. Because people come up to us after the show and says, you know, your show was incredible, but I couldn't take my eyes off your wife. Her laugh is so incredible. So I think, although she kind of lets me go out, strut my stuff, and you know, make myself feel good about me, she really plays such a vital role to our show. And obviously, as you know, often there's, in a relationship, you have one person that's in the forefront. Really, the stronger person is usually the one that's kind of in the background, and that's definitely the case for me.
Let me get to one of the points on your teaser points, because I did want to ask about this one, and then we'll get to your show.
Sure.
How to respond to a personal foul in your marriage. Now, give us an example of what a personal foul is, and then tell me how you would respond to it.
As I mentioned earlier, we know, right? We know what sets our partners off. We know, right? I mean, I'm sure you're an expert with your partner.
Yeah.
You know what buttons you can push, right? You know, just like, you know, in a football game, okay, I could get a personal foul, and usually those personal fouls a lot of times come from retaliation. They don't see the initial foul. They see the retaliation, okay? So now, if a person has trained themselves to the point of understanding the bigger causes to win the football game, right? They know that personal foul is not going to help towards that cause. Now, the better trained teams won't allow themselves to retaliate for that. If we took that same mentality into our marriage, where maybe our partner's having a bad day, right? Maybe, you know, but we're in the thick of it. We can't see things clearly. And my partner pulls out the trump card to do something to hurt me. I wonder how much different my marriage would be if I just kind of allowed that to happen for that time period. Don't handle it right then. Don't retaliate to that personal foul. And now give that person that opportunity, you know, to kind of catch their breath a little bit. You know, often in our relationships, the problem wasn't what happened initially. The problem is what happens after, right? Something occurs in our relationship. Maybe it's not that big of a deal, but then it's a downward spiral, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So what I mean by that is, you know, maybe if we learned and put more thought to sometimes, even though we're right, you know, we always want to feel, at least I do, I always want to feel I'm right. Like, you know, I know I'm right on this topic. If we can bite our tongue sometimes and bite our pride in the long run, because what do we want most of all in our relationship? None of us get together with our partner with the idea of breaking up with them. We want to stay together. We want to have a strong bond. But we're all people. We're all screwed up, right? I mean, I put my tie on. I look like we're all screwed up. I tell people that all the time. I mean, you know, I have issues. I'm sure you have issues. And it's a matter of trying to make life work together. So don't respond to that personal foul. That's what I'm trying to say. In football, you know, we respond to it. We're usually the ones that are getting flagged.
Yeah, I agree with you on the personal foul. I think sometimes you just have to let your partner be right and let them do what they have to do to feel better. I know sometimes that's worked for me. You know, just leave them alone. I want to get to your show. The show is called Hypnotizing America, and it's a comedy show, reality TV series. Is it? Where did you say it was on?
It's on WMCN, which is a PA, New Jersey, Delaware. It goes into maybe around 3 million homes.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's good.
And we might, it's been a good start for us. And then we were excited. We found out last week that we might be, I think we'll learn more in February, being picked up in Boston and New York. So they're big markets,
yeah.
you know. You know, so it's, I never in a million years thought I would ever, I had never had even seen a reality show like a couple years ago, you know. And so this is, and I'm a goofball. You know, I believe that the more vulnerable you can make yourself to the people that you love, you know, the more you can show them how much you love them. So the show basically follows my wife and I. Basically the general theme of it, you know, both my wife and our goofiness. You know, for an example, we were at the mall shopping, which I hate shopping. I don't know if you're a person that shops, but my wife loves to shop. And she left me she didn't show up for like almost an hour. So I had one of these props from our show, a penguin costume. So I went through the mall in a penguin costume, yelling my wife's name, looking for her. So that was my way of quote unquote punishing her for leaving me there. So that's just kind of some of the goofiness that kind of occurs during the show.
Okay, and you're also a certified hypnotist.
Yes, sir.
People have been skeptical of hypnotism, or hypnosis rather, that, you know, it doesn't work and people have to believe that it works. But how do you do it? I mean, I'm getting this picture in my head that you hypnotize people and they stand up and take their clothes off and dance like a chicken or something crazy like that.
Well, I was a person that never believed in hypnosis. Remember, you know, I'm Mr. Tough Guy, football guy, the whole thing. And once I started to learn about it, I was just totally amazed by it. You know, a person can't be hypnotized unless they want to be. It's not hocus pocus, you know. And what I do a little bit differently in my show is I really loved it to educate people on it. I don't think we've ever had a show. And you know, I've done top 5 U.S. corporations. I mean, I've, you know, dealt with some world leaders. And I don't feel we've ever had a show where people didn't believe in it once the show was over. All right. But basically, you know, we write new shows. My wife and I, that's part of the TV show's about. It's like we will write shows nonstop. So none of my shows are ever the same, you know, and, you know, we're pretty much, we're a very, very clean show. It doesn't matter whether we're performing at a casino or whether we're performing, you know, at a school. You know, any of our shows could be for pretty much any demographic, any age. So yeah, what we do is entertainment. It's an awful lot of fun. Imagine going with a group of your family and friends, and you don't think in a million years this person you've known your whole life would do a certain thing, and they do, and it's just people leave with lifelong memories.
Well, that's great. Tim, we've got to wrap this up. Unfortunately, we are out of time.
Sure.
Your show is called Hypnotizing America. Your website is hypnotizingamerica.com. Are your shows on YouTube or place where people can watch them online?
No, but we do have a situation where we have an offer to be able to go on iTunes, but we actually have another, I don't know, I think it's a little bit of a long shot, but with a much bigger, we're waiting to see what happens with that. But the bare minimum, by probably the end of February, you'll be able to go on iTunes and get them if you're not in the PA, Jersey, Delaware area. And as I mentioned, we might be going into New York and Boston. But if you go to hypnotizingamerica.com, you know, we'll definitely keep people updated.
Okay, super. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed talking to you. Best of luck with the show. I hope to see it on the major network.
Yeah,
somewhere.
well, thank you, Doug. Yeah, well, I just want to thank you, too. Thanks for taking the time of allowing me to come on your program.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, that's about all the time we've got for the show today. I want to thank my special guests, Matthew Parris and Tim Miller. This is Douglas Coleman saying goodbye.